Thanks for staying with us. We continue with the show. Joining us, Athena Morgan, Chair, Internet Society Kenya chapter. She'll be telling us about how parents and guardians can protect their children when they are at home in the wake of this coronavirus pandemic. Thank you very much, Athena, for joining us. All right, tell us about Internet Society Kenya chapter. What is it? What is it all about?
Oh, hi. Thank you for the opportunity. I am the former acting chair, actually. I gave up that position last year. But Internet Society basically looks at internet access for all, regardless of background and economic status. And at the moment, what I actually do is I run an initiative known as ALT Initiative, which is a legal and tech initiative. And we use that platform to advocate for online safety for children, for parents and guardians, and also for corporates. And we also look at marginalized groups and indigenous groups and how best to make the internet a safe and secure platform for them.
All right, looking for
Yes.
better ways to make the internet a safe platform for all. But in as much as, yes, you're the acting chair, tell us about some of the gaps that were spotted that made it necessary for this platform to be created in the first place.
Oh, okay. For me, the reason we came up with this platform is because most of the time we talk about safety, but what we don't factor in is the fact that parents and guardians, and even to a large extent the teachers, are ignorant of the threats that children face online, first of all. Secondly, even if they are aware of the threats, they don't know how to deal with them or even how to approach the issue with their children. That is on the first aspect of it. So we come in as the filling the gap to educate the caregivers on how best to identify, and not only just identify but also deal with these challenges so that they can help the children navigate the online platform confidently. And also on the second aspect, which is for corporates, we also look at how to educate the people in the workforce on how to use the internet without jeopardizing the organizations or the companies that they work for. Because online insecurity can affect anyone, regardless of age or social status.
All right, and you've said
Yes.
something very important about education, which just goes to show that internet is not just a platform for advancing technology. And I was reading an article just also from your website that was saying that more than just advancing technology, you also work to ensure internet continues to grow and evolve as a platform for innovation, economic development, and social progress. How do you do that and ensure that actually that comes to fruition?
So as internet society, how we have done that in the previous time through engaging people from what would be called less connected areas. That is like going to the slums, encouraging innovation, giving them internet connectivity first of all. And then what you've noticed is that these people in the slums have a lot of creative ideas. What they lack is a platform for using these, for expressing these ideas. So ISOC usually gives them this platform plus the connectivity in order to enable them to bring out the ideas and even use it as a platform for economic growth.
All
And
right.
that enhances social economic growth.
Okay, and you've also said something very important, which will be coming to a bit later, especially for those that are living in the informal settlements, or if you made the slums, and how children living in such areas can protect themselves. But also there was one thing about what you do at Internet Society, which part of what you do is standards, research and technology, internet issues, policy and leadership. But I want you to briefly explain to us more about what exactly is policy and what exactly is leadership at Internet Society.
In terms of policy, several times the government issues out calls to non-governmental organizations to take part in debates or discussions about new laws that involve technology. For example, during the time for the Data Security Act, when it was a bill, stakeholders were called to give in their input and how best the act can be structured so as to cover all aspects of data security. or even during the Cybersecurity Act, Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act, sorry, the stakeholders were still called. And you see, it's in such calls that Internet Society and other organizations that are not directly linked to the government can give the government an actual feel of how technology is on the ground, so that when they're formulating these policies, they can factor in the common monarchy. So that is the role that NGOs generally that deal with technology, that's the gap that they fill, connecting the Mwananchi to the government in terms of policy creation.
All right. Now, 2 years ago, this was in 2018, of course, and this was on the 16th of February, together with the media networks, you launched a project called Safe Online, Safe on Land. Tell us about that.
Well, the Safe Online project was actually very close to my heart because it deals with children online safety. And together with MediaNet, the term itself just basically meant the rules of on offline safety. That's when you're walking on general streets, when you're interacting with strangers on the road as a child. Those are the same rules that should apply online when you're interacting with the social media platform, because generally all of it is socialization, whether you're online or offline. The only challenge comes in that people think that when you go online, the rules change, whereas they don't. For example, if you're taught from a young age, don't take don't talk to strangers on the road, that's the same thing that applies when you go to social media platforms, because just because they cannot physically touch you and probably harm you does not mean that this.
All right, it looks like we are losing Athena Morgan, the chair, Internet Society, Kenya, but she's just explaining to us what exactly parents and guardians can do to protect their children in this time. Athena, as you were explaining to us about the Safe Online, Safe on Land, or Safe on Land, and what exactly it is, kindly continue.
Oh, I was saying the offline platform generally presents physical abuse. What happens on the.
All right, clearly looks like we are losing the chair there, but just what she's trying to tell us is safety of children online in this time where they are at home and they have access to online platforms, they have access to smartphones, to social media. This is, of course, the different platforms of social media. And just what are some of the guidelines, better still, that and measures that parents and guardians can adopt even as they try to ensure that our children stay safe in this difficult time. This is just what she's trying to explain to us, and she was also just telling us about some of the projects they have enacted at this Internet Society Kenya chapter, and she was explaining to us about the Safe Online, Safe on Land project, which she says it is close to her heart. This is a project that was enacted in 2018, and it was in partnership with the media networks. This was a project to ensure that children can actually interact safely online, even just trying to tell them that it is important for them to understand, just the way you can be told that do not speak to a stranger while you're walking on the street, just the way your mom can tell you, when you're walking around, don't talk to a stranger, don't talk to someone who you don't know. The same rules also applied online, and that is just what Athena was trying to explain to us. Just like I'd mentioned, this was supposed to be a 12-month project. She will also, as and when we get her, she will be explaining to us how this project has been faring on since 2018. Is it still ongoing? Has it stopped? What has been some of the benefits of this project, even as they try to ensure that our children stay safe online? Athena, continue telling us about the Safe Online,
Yes.
Safe Online project.
Oh, okay. The project took place in Kajiado,
Okay.
but the official period for it running came to an end towards the end of last year. But what I'd like us to shift into as we discuss about online safety, especially during this period,
Yeah.
is some of the things that was highlighted during that project and the emerging challenges that we're seeing parents face at the moment right now, considering that children are all at home. And we all know that interaction has been minimized. You'd find it very difficult even to find children outside playing.
Exactly.
So most of the time, children are locked inside the house. So the big question is, what are these children doing to entertain themselves? And as a result of that, you see, most parents are resorting to technology and mainly the internet. And that's where now the challenge begins, because if it's not well monitored and if the children are not well guided, then it's going to do more harm than good. Instead of entertainment, we're going to have depressed children or suicidal children. So, with moving forward in the conversation, we'd look at some of the challenges we saw during the project with MediaNet, and even some of the challenges right now working as an online safety trainer that parents and caregivers have advised and asked for advice on in times of this quarantine period, now that they're stuck with their children indoors and no other solution for them.
Exactly. And of course, just like you mentioned, you'll be telling us about some of the benefits of this project and some of the challenges that you have encountered even as you try to enact this project. But at least I read that it was to be a 12-month project as of that time. Is it still continuing? And if it actually is, then now you can tell us some of the benefits of the project.
The project, what Internet Society does is it gives wings to organizations, a small scale of organizations, to be able to launch their project, then supports them for the first year as per the contract to be able to launch, publicize themselves, and even create a curriculum for which they work with. And that's what ISOC did with MediaNet in that 1 year period. So once the funding for that came to an end, uh, the the partnership is seen as coming to an end. But what happens is that we leave the organization to rise on its own and build its own connection, whereas ISOC stands behind as big brother, advising and bringing in resources in terms of personnel when need be. But in the meantime, we do not own these projects. We just give them the ability to fly, to take off, and then we support them from the sidelines. So yes, the 1 year time when we were actively involved came to an end, but we're still in close contact and working together with MediaNet to ensure that the project goes on and the training of trainers goes on even after the lapse of the 1 year contract. And the training itself was very beneficial because we saw that parents came to be trained, teachers and
All right, so parents came to be trained,
caregivers
teachers.
mainly, yes, and caregivers. And they received training on online challenges and how best to deal with them, and even where to seek help should the situation escalate and they're not able to deal with it themselves.
All right, Athena, just from what you're saying, just like any startup, like any organization, funding was actually one of the biggest challenge even as you're trying to implement this project?
Uh, Funding was not a challenge per se because ISOC funds the first year of the project. And then before ISOC funds a project, it ensures that the project has the ability to go on even after the funding,
All right.
whereby the Safe Online, Safe on Land project had the ability to generate its own income after the said funding. So the initial funding was given by ISOC, and then from there onwards, the network itself was able to generate its own income to keep its project running.
All right, so let's talk about
Yes.
now human trafficking, online child abuse, which are just some of the cases that children are vulnerable to even as they're using the online platform. But speak about human trafficking and child abuse. What would you attribute these numerous cases to?
The first thing would be lack of supervision when using the online platform.
Okay.
In today's generation, the challenge arises when you buy for your child a smartphone or you allow them to use the computer at home with internet access, yet you do not inform them of the dangers online. So, as a result, you find that the child ends up oversharing information about themselves or about their parents, which makes them a target. If it's about trafficking, by the time a child is meeting with a trafficker offline, that's let's say in a cafe or somewhere else, they must have formed a rapport on the online platform. And if you're not monitoring or advising your child on the kinds of conversations they should have online, the child is subject to what we call online grooming. And online grooming is whereby someone comes and sweet talks the child and makes the child believe that this individual has their best interest at heart. So the child ends up trusting the individual to the extent of meeting them offline, even without informing their parents. And as a result of that, a child can be easily abducted and trafficked. And online groomers have specific targets. They look for vulnerable children. So if your child is the one who whines and complains online about family challenges, about their skin color, about how big or how small they look, groomers feed on this. So if you're complaining you're always fat, if your child is always complaining that they're always fat, what the groomer will do will tell them how beautiful they look despite them being fat. So the child finds a comfort zone with this person to the extent of trusting them to meet them offline. So if parents do not know about grooming and they don't talk to their children about this, then their children can fall victims of online grooming and then meet offline and become trafficked or even sexually exploited. As in, the list is endless once they trust people who are untrustworthy on the online platform.
Exactly, and you've said something very important, which brings me to my next question, which is about trust. Because just like the way you've mentioned, there's some children who would say that I have a friend online on this platform, and we've been chatting. Yet at this point, that child has never met this person, but they go ahead even to give their email addresses, their personal information, where they stay. And if you ask the child, they will say, "I trust this person." And you'd wonder, how would you trust someone you've never met? Should this be a wake-up call to parents and guardians?
Yes, it should be. And another trait of these people online, most of the time you'll find that the people who are gaining the quote unquote so called trust of the child are not who they say they are. For example, I'm an older lady, but I can pose as a young girl and download photos of a younger girl and put them on my social media profile and claim
Okay.
to be 13 years old and look for kids who are around 13 years old and send them friend requests. And you see, with that profile of a younger person, I end up attracting more young people to my profile. And if they say they hate the curfew, I join in and I say, yes, I hate the curfew too, because I'm also a kid and my parents are restricting me. Yet, in the real sense, I am an adult. I am not probably even affected by the curfews or issues like that. But you see, the fact that I've already changed my profile online and I'm looking like someone that I'm not, I am able to bring in people from the target age group that I am working to lure and probably to manipulate. So that brings us back to the issue of parents and knowing who your children's friends online are.
Exactly.
And it's supposed to be a step by step basic interaction because your child has to trust you in order to tell you who they're talking to. And they should also know that they should not share information. You find like during this time, the children who take photos of the shopping their parents have done, we've heard about the mass shopping, yeah? And this kid has put up everything that is in the kitchen and it's all over the social media platform.
Yeah.
And they've included where they live, their house number, their plot number. Do you know that a thief, someone who's their friend online and is a thief, can even break into their house? Desperate times.
Yeah.
So parents should talk to their children about oversharing information because not everything that belongs to you should be shared to the public.
Well, exactly this is Athena just speaking to us about some of the directives that parents and guardians can adopt even as their children are staying at home in the wake of this coronavirus issues. But lastly, Athena, just let's briefly talk about cyberbullying, because sometimes there's that issue of children bullying each other, you know, online, where a child has an account, the other one has an account, and they're bullying each other, some just calling each other names, maybe telling them you're too fat, you're too thin, you don't look nice, and all of that. Let's first start by understanding what will make children do this to each other.
That's a very interesting one. On cyberbullying, it takes several phases.
Okay.
First of all, a child who bullies another probably has undergone bullying themselves, or they're facing a certain kind of insecurity and they want to make someone else feel insecure before their own insecurity is pointed out. So as a result of that, you find that children are bullying each other. There are some who come out and do it openly. There are others who do it behind pseudo accounts, that is, fake accounts. I create a fake account and I use it to insult someone else because I don't want my identity to be known. And an interesting thing that has been going on these last few weeks
Okay.
during the quarantine period is there's this app known as Kubol, whereby they say send an anonymous message saying what you think about me, and then I will post it. So this app allows anyone to log in, and then you can post directly to someone else's app and tell them exactly how you feel about them. And the worst part about this is that since it's anonymous and a child continuously gets negative reports about what the people think about them, that amounts to bullying and can actually lead to depression or even suicide. And as a result, as a result of that, parents need to be aware of what their children are doing online and also advise against bullying, because actually bullying is a criminal offense and children need to know that their actions online have physical consequences. So if they do not behave, they're probably going to face the full effect of the law.
Well, thank you very much, Athena. And you've just answered the last question, which I wanted to ask you is what can parents and guardians do to avert the situation? And you've really rightly put it, that advice against bullying. So thank you so much very much. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. That has been Athena Morgan, Chair, Internet Society Kenya Chapter.